situation with Blake Monroe sure's got fans buzzing, folks, so we're going to see what all of that is about. We're also going to get into what is up with CM Punk, with Kevin Owens, and more. Starting things off, of course, with Blake Monroe, because this is a heated situation that fans are feeling all sorts of feelings about. Blake Monroe is an absolute star. She recently made a name for herself in AEW, where she had a lot of high-profile matches, storylines, character work, the works. Everything that she did there stood out, and it really worked to connect with fans. And that's why when she came over to NXT, it was a massive deal, because fans that saw her work in AEW knew exactly what they were going to get from her. And even during her short time in NXT, we saw some great flashes of that amazing work and potential that she does. She had great feuds in NXT. She even introduced her alter ego, the Woman from Hell. She's just such a talented star with multiple layers of star power and this deep skill set on every level. And that's why, when she got called up to SmackDown immediately after WrestleMania 42, there was once again a lot of hype surrounding that as well. The issue, at least for the fans, kicked in when it started to look like this was going to be some endless wait for Blake's debut. The teasers started on the SmackDown after WrestleMania back in April. And then, from there on, 10 weeks of just more and more teasers, and then nothing even developing there for Blake's debut. So, naturally, after 10 weeks of nothing, the hype from the fans kind of started to turn into frustration. Fans were pretty darn upset that they had made it seem like Blake was going to be debuting sometime back in April, and then nearly 3 months go by and nothing happens at all. Well, this finally came to an end when Blake Monroe finally came out to the ring on June 26th to attack Julia. It was a big moment. It happened in Blake's hometown, and so fans thought, all right, this is finally the start to Blake's SmackDown run, right? But then after that big initial attack on Julia, things immediately flatlined again for Blake Monroe. There was no real follow-up to that attack on Julia, and so instead, Blake spent the next few weeks just randomly attacking some stars backstage, and then that was it for her. So to recap, they made you wait 3 months so that you could see her in front of a crowd, and then once that happened, they placed Blake right back into backstage segments for a bunch more weeks in a row after that. Just a little bit frustrating for the fans who just wanted to see her start the main roster career. So, even after that initial SmackDown in-ring attack on Julia, here we are about 2 months removed from that exact moment, and Blake has still yet to wrestle or kick off any real feud at all on SmackDown. Blake was set to have her SmackDown debut match on August 21st against Julia, but then Blake sabotaged her own debut by attacking Julia during her entrance and getting the match canceled. And this moment really enraged the fans, because this wait to see Blake Monroe officially start her main roster career, it's starting to get ridiculously long. Again, recapping, her main roster debut was first teased back in April, and here we are now, about a week away from September, still sitting around and wondering when are they going to do something with Blake Monroe on SmackDown. Nearly 5 months of waiting to see her new entrance, waiting to see her first match, her first program, and the wait just keeps on getting extended instead. It's one thing to tease the fans, but at this point, you got the fans feeling like they're pretty much being mocked with how long this is going on for. Why would you even call Blake Monroe up to the main roster if she's going to do nothing for 5 months? That's the type of question that's floating around in the community at the moment. Fans just feeling down in the dumps after Blake's debut match was yet again scrapped, delayed. Now, there is some storyline context here that WWE aired on their social media platforms about the whole situation. In the digital exclusive clip, Blake explained her actions by having this to say, quote, "That's not my debut. I didn't wait 4 months getting called up to SmackDown, and I didn't wait 9 years to make it to WWE to have my debut like that. I'm world championship material. So you find Chelsea Green, you bring her to me, then you get the glamour." End quote. So, although everybody is really bummed about that debut match being scrapped on SmackDown, this quote from Blake Monroe at least gives us some hope, that maybe there's some direction and story in mind that they're going finally with this. It appears that the story here is that Blake's character feels like she's just too much of a massive attraction to just have a standard SmackDown debut match. Blake feels like, since she's been waiting all of these months backstage at SmackDown, and since it took her nearly a decade to even get to the WWE, She feels like she deserves a massive debut, specifically a debut for a world championship. It appears that Blake Monroe wants her debut main roster match to be against Chelsea Green for the WWE Women's title, and nothing less than that. That's quite an interesting situation because we've never really seen a brand new star to the main roster pretty much hold their own debut hostage in exchange for a world title match. Definitely not the type of scenario that you see every day in WWE. So now this puts Nick Aldis's character in a pretty darn awkward spot because is he going to give in to Blake's demands? Is he just going to reward her a women's title match because she demanded it? And if he does, you got to assume that there's going to be a lot of angry women in the locker room because you got a lot of stars back there that have been waiting patiently for an opportunity. So if Blake just cuts that line by demanding a world title match for her debut, you got to assume that there's going to be a lot of women back there very fairly giving Nick Aldis flack for awarding Blake her demands. Definitely puts him in a tricky spot here. Realistically, Nick Aldis shouldn't just give Blake Monroe a title match because she demanded it, all right? That's not really how things work. So it's going to be extremely surprising, I think, if they actually go in that direction. I think maybe best case scenario, Nick puts Blake in some sort of number one contenders match and makes her earn it. I think that's a lot more realistic. But fans are also worried regardless of what happens because rushing Blake Monroe into the world title scene like this could be writing themselves into a corner, I think. I mean, sure, it's cool to be hearing Blake making all of these big demands and calling herself world championship material, but if they're not planning on putting the women's title on her right now, why rush her into this title match just to lose it? Because where does Blake Monroe go from there if we waited months to see her debut and then she gets a title match and then just loses the title match? Well, then it feels like they're kind of back to square one with Blake, right? So I think the fans are definitely a little bit confused with Blake Monroe's exact usage at the moment. It does appear that her character is refusing to wrestle and make her debut unless it is for the WWE Women's title. So it's going to be interesting to see how exactly they handle that. You know, if Blake is going to get that title match and what's going to happen next with her if she loses that title match. A lot of question marks surrounding Blake's usage at the moment. But hopefully, to wrap it all up, things are finally going to start to get a little clear in the near future. Now, CM Punk and Kevin Owens had a huge main event match recently on SmackDown for the WWE Championship. And this match, it put CM Punk in a pretty hostile environment for the first time since he returned to WWE. Kevin Owens got the hometown love in Canada, while Punk was getting heavily booed. And Punk did adjust to the environment on the fly, and he pulled off a lot of hidden heel antics within the match. He was a bit sarcastic with his gestures when addressing the crowd, and then he rolled out of the ring when Kevin Owens was going to the top rope. Punk even properly fixed the commentator table and put it all back together, which obviously the fans weren't happy with because they wanted to see somebody go through that table. So just little subtle heel clues like that within this match that make you wonder, is this just a one-night thing since they were in Canada? Or are these signs that heel Punk is inching closer and closer? And the reports are claiming that the Punk and Kevin feud was allegedly a one-off, so we're going to have to see if that's true. You know, is CM Punk going to move on to a brand new opponent after defeating Kevin Owens? Or is that feud going to continue after all? And to add on to that, this week's SmackDown also included Randy Orton telling CM Punk to his face that he was coming back for the WWE title after he gets done handling Cody Rhodes on September 6th. So that's yet another big teaser right there for a potential future feud for CM Punk that could be coming up real soon as well. Lots to unpack. We'll see. But anyway, what are your thoughts on today's stories? Make sure to leave your comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on, and make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.